Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Obsession is here, John.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. And, of course, most importantly, you guys are here.
Hey,
Thank
intro.
you so much for hitting the music and
Always.
joining us here today on today's episode. Listen, we got a number of things we need to cover here today, so we're going to dive right into it. And I'm going to start off by giving you guys some housekeeping stuff, which is, of course, reminding you that, wow, it's like really close. The movie meetups are starting back up again, and we have 4 cities that we are stopping in. On Tuesday, May 26th, we are going to be in Columbus, Ohio. Sunday, May 24th. Sunday, May 24th, we're going to be in Columbus, Ohio at the Marcus Crosswood Cinema for the 6:30 p.m. screening of The Mandalorian. On Tuesday, May 26th, we're going to be in the New York City area at the AMC Roosevelt Field 8 for the 7:20 screening of The Mandalorian. Then, on Wednesday, May 27th, we're going to be in the Boston area at the AMC Braintree 10 for a 7:15 of The Mandalorian. And then on Sunday, May 31st, I'm heading home, going to go up to the Toronto area for the Cineplex Cinema Queensway and VIP screening of Mandalorian and Grogu. We do not have a time yet for that because they have not yet put tickets on sale for Mandalorian and Grogu on that date there, but keep your eye on that date. It's coming. And the way the movie meetups work is really simple. If you live in that area and you want to come to the movie, just go to the movie theater's website as normal and buy yourself a ticket to that movie. Now, it might be tough in New York and Boston, well, and Columbus. There's really not many, if any, seats left in a couple of them. But if you go there and they are sold out, maybe just go to another screening that's really close in time to it, or just come to the theater afterwards and meet, say hi, we'll take some pictures, and that'll be it. And we're looking forward to seeing all you guys. I leave on Wednesday night.
Wow.
Like a week from today, practically. Going to be leaving on Wednesday night and hitting the road and going out on the movie meetup tour. Looking forward to it. All right, guys.
It's a lot of miles, John.
It's a lot of miles. It's thousands and thousands of miles. Thank goodness I have that van.
It's an Indiana Jones kind of a thing.
All right. That all down, guys. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with this. You know, the Batman 2 is coming and everybody's excited about it, despite the initial kind of poo-pooing ridiculous reaction that everybody had. Was Twilight Boy was going to be Batman. We told you. There's a reason every major director is lining up to work with Robert Pattinson, and he was a great Batman, and the movie was fantastic. A little long for me, a little bit too long, I thought, but that's my only criticism. Everything else about it was brilliant. Can't wait for the second one. Well, there's been a whole bunch of casting reports and rumors, some more solid than others. A couple of those, of course, have been that Sebastian Stan, aka the Winter Soldier, is going to be in it. He himself actually confirmed that on his social medias. I don't know if he was supposed to, but he did. But the other big name that's been attached, of course, is another MCU alum, Scarlett Johansson, aka Black Widow. Now, it's pretty much just been understood that she is going to be in it, but they never gave an official word. Well, that's done. Because as of today, in this report from Entertainment Weekly, the Batman Part 2 confirms the casting. Robert Pattinson is joined by Scarlett Johansson and other DC veterans and more. So the director of the film, Christopher Reeve, put out a series of posts, kind of one by one confirming some cast members. And the one that was in there that we really didn't know 100% for sure, but that he confirmed is Scarlett Johansson. Again, whenever you add talent, it's a great idea. Scarlett Johansson is an Oscar-level talent. She doesn't have a ton of trophies on her mantle yet, but she's been nominated. She is Oscar-level. She's absolutely fantastic. So you got her. I adore Sebastian Stan. You know, he came into the studio once and hung out for an afternoon, and we interviewed him for the day. He was wonderful. So seeing these two joining Andy Serkis, Jeffrey Wright, obviously Robert Pattinson. It's a great lineup. It's an absolutely great lineup. But the nerd in me does kind of wonder a little bit, because I had a couple of people write this in asking, is it an issue that we've got 2 big MCU stars coming up in this DC film. As a matter of fact, one of them is an active, ongoing MCU star, because we're going to see Bucky in some upcoming stuff over on the MCU side. And of course, Scarlett Johansson was practically, I mean, she's an OG Avenger, right? And so that's a question that kind of comes up too. So Rob, let me put it over to you.
Sebastian Stan was introduced in the MCU in a movie that also co-starred Scarlett Johansson.
That's true. Yep. So they've been on screen in the MCU. They're going to be on screen together in the DCU. So 2 questions for you. 1, your reaction and response to it now being official, Scarlett Johansson is going to be joining the cast of the Batman 2. But secondly, from a, nerdier kind of perspective, is this eyebrow raising at all that we're having 2 prime level MCU stars appearing in a DCU film together? What do you think?
Well, John, when I was growing up, Al Pacino was in Serpico. He was in Sea of Love. He was in Heat. Played a cop in all of them. I never once thought that they shouldn't have cast Al Pacino in Heat because he played a cop in Serpico. I never thought he shouldn't be in Heat because he played a cop in Sea of Love. It doesn't make sense. Actors act. That's what they do. And if you look at some of the great directors, they work with the same actors over and over again, like their stable of performers. Christopher Guest would do that with, in his movies. Woody Allen certainly had his stable of actors. Just because the subject matter of a movie happens to be superheroic, why would that preclude any actor to play any part? Nobody. Ian McKellen played Magneto before he played Gandalf, and no one said anything there. I mean, they're different. I think it's fine. I think it's great. And I think that, Marvel's loss is DC's gain. I mean, it's just, I've never understood the idea. I mean, God, we have Chris Evans, and Deadpool and Wolverine did it perfectly.
Yeah.
Showing us that once you have an actor who's played 2 main character roles from Marvel movies, why is anybody talking about this at all? Because
and at the time they were from completely separate studios.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, totally. But they were both, and so I don't think I've ever understood that. I think it's kind of a weird thing. Actors act. And plus I love Sebastian Stan. I really think he's a great actor. I mean, he was great as Tommy Lee.
Oh, he was so good.
So good, right? I mean, he's an incredibly diverse. He was great playing Donald Trump.
Yeah, he got a lot of award nominations for that too.
Yeah, I think he's just a fine actor. And what you want is like, I guess I've never thought about what actors' previous roles, what they were in first when I'm watching a movie. I just like actors,
Do you know Chris Evans was actually in 3 superhero
That's right, because
universes?
he was in the other
Push.
when they were in Hong Kong. Yeah, right.
He was in Push. I believe that was the name. Correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong in the live chat, guys, but I think it was Push. And then there was even a 4th comic book movie, The Losers.
Oh, right. That's right.
That Chris Evans, by the way.
Which is a DC comic.
It's funny. That's the first thing Chris Evans and I bonded over. It was the very first time I met Chris Evans, and I've had the privilege and delight to do a couple of things with him, but the very first time I met Chris Evans was at the very first public screening ever of Captain America, the First Avenger. It was a public screening at Comic-Con in San Diego, and they booked out a theater in San Diego. And there were only 2, I believe it was only 2 groups got to interview him at the screening. CNN and me. and the first thing I said before we started rolling, I said to him, by the way, man, I'm sure he's used to this. He had people saying, by the way, I loved you in blank, right? But what he had never heard before, first thing I said, man, I love The Losers. And he was like, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's one of my favorite movies that I've done. And nobody ever talks to me about it. I'm like, I love that movie.
Well, look at the cast.
Oh, the cast was so good.
I mean, come on. It's
You got 2 Marvel alum right there, and then 1 DC.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, he's been all over the place. And I agree with you,
He-Man.
by the way. It's always this notion of, like, whenever an actor's in a Warner Brothers film, you might see them in the same year also in a Universal film and in a Disney film.
And Anna Hathaway this year is in every movie.
And Anne Hathaway's literally in like 7 movies this year. By the way, finally went to go see Devil Wears Prada 2 last night.
I have not seen it
I
yet.
was late to it. It was nice. No, I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but it was nice. The Tooch ruled, though. The Tooch always rules. Yeah, listen, there's no reason anybody shouldn't be able to play a role in both. I mean, Perry White.
Which one?
Morbius.
J.K. Simmons.
No.
Are you talking? J.K. Simmons is Perry White's DC.
Yeah.
There's Wendell
Lawrence
Pierce.
Fishburne.
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne was Perry White in Superman or in Man of Steel, and he was in one of the Ant-Man movies. There's no reason you can't do both. Now,
by the way, Wendell Pierce should be in. He's in Superman.
I love Wendell Pierce.
He should be in all movies too.
The thing is, when you look at the one thing that is unique about this situation, I'll say, like, at least when it comes to Sebastian Stan, is that he'll be the first guy that I can remember who is ongoing active in both. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be, I haven't checked this, but I think after he was in Ant-Man, I don't think Lawrence Fishburne did another DC movie. I could be mistaken about that. But Sebastian Stan might be the first guy who is currently an ongoing character in the MCU and is now going to also be in a DC film, which I think is kind of interesting. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It's now confirmed that we have Scarlett Johansson. Somebody's mentioning it. They also confirmed Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell kind of confirmed himself months and months ago when he said he got the script and how big his role
he even said it was a smaller role.
Yeah, so he confirmed that himself ages ago. But now we know Scarlett Johansson's in there. What do you think about her addition to the film? And do you have thoughts about the fact that we've got not just smaller role characters like Lawrence Fishburne in the Ant-Man film, but like prime MCU characters appearing together, or at least prime MCU actors appearing together in a DC film? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. I gotta tell you, a movie that I am growing more and more interested in is the Legend of Zelda film. The whole thing about Legend of Zelda kind of first came up, at least for us, right around the time when Mario was coming out, and we were talking about, now every Nintendo movie is going to be a big movie. And I said, the problem is there's only one Mario. Nintendo doesn't have a bunch of Marios. I said the closest thing they've got as far as to multi-generational appeal with nostalgia and all that kind of stuff is Zelda. That's it. And then they announced that they're doing a live action Zelda movie. And then the first pictures like this one on Deadline, the first, and I believe only official picture came out. I'm like, okay, I dig it. I like the look. I mean, how you bring Link and Zelda to life, it's going to be tricky, but I like the look. I like what we're getting here too. So the movie's coming out, and now we just got an announcement that they've actually moved it up. In a movie universe where we're so used to, whenever we're hearing about dates moving, we're hearing about being pushed back 8 months or a year or whatever, but they're actually moving Zelda up. Not by much, but they are moving it. This comes to us from Deadline, who wrote the following. Link and Zelda's journey from game consoles to the big screen is getting fast-tracked, with Nintendo moving up the live-action adaptation release date. On Wednesday, Nintendo executive and The Legend of Zelda co-creator Shigeru Miyamoto announced that the upcoming Sony Pictures title theatrical premiere is moving up from May 7th to April 30th. So it's only moving by about a week, right? It's only moving about a week. The executive wrote, "This is Miyamoto. I would like to let you know that I think I'm going to do that from now on. This is Campea," and then say whatever I'm going to say. Every social media post now I'm going to start with, "This is Campea." Anyway, "This is Miyamoto. I would like to let you know that the worldwide theatrical release date for the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda has been moved up to April 30th, 2027 from May 7th, he announced on Twitter. "The team is working hard to deliver the film to everyone as soon as possible. There is less than a year to go until the release, so thank you for waiting." I would have bet money, not a lot, maybe $10. I would have bet money that they were going to give us some sort of presentation on Legend of Zelda at CinemaCon. But we knew it wasn't a guarantee because the movie doesn't come out till after the next CinemaCon. So I expect at the next CinemaCon, they're going to go hog wild. You know what? I'll put the flag in right now. I will bet they're going to screen Legend of Zelda at CinemaCon next year, because it's only going to be about 2 or 3 weeks away from the release date. I bet you they will do a full screening.
If it's great.
If it's good, yeah, if it's good and if it's great, hopefully it will be. And you know what? I've always liked, ever since they started to announce the writers, the director, I'm like, they've put together a good team.
Yeah, they really have.
And this could feel epic. And I know there's been a long debate, both before they announced the movie and after, about whether A Legend of Zelda should be an animated film or a live action. I'll tell you what, I think they did the right thing by making Mario animated. I think they're absolutely doing the right thing by making Zelda live action.
Well, especially the picture you just saw. I mean, I love what the cast looks like. I think they've cast it very, very well. And I mean, that one photograph is very evocative. Dare I say it has great verisimilitude. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been good.
Especially when you look at the world, Hyrule. When you look at Hyrule, and look, I'm a big fan of Tears of the Kingdom, and like I really like the games. This world is just made to have a live action adaptation. And now look, I don't know that the movie's going to be good. Maybe it'll be trash. If they made it animated, it could have been trash. But I really do like the fact that they're going for this. And I like the fact that we're going to get it a week early now.
I'm with you. And I love that Miyamoto has spoken.
Yes.
I mean,
this is Miyamoto.
You got one of the creators of the game, the creator of the game, right? Working on it the same way you had the creator of One Piece working on that show. This is the way.
Yeah, I just think this looks great. This looks cinematic. This bring this image up. This looks cinematic. This looks like the kind of, if I had to picture it in my head, what could a live action Zelda thing look like? This is what it would look like. So I'm pretty excited about it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They've moved the release date actually up for The Legend of Zelda. Not by much, but still, we're not used to hearing movies getting moved up. And how are you feeling right now? Where's your expectation level like for a Legend of Zelda movie? What are you hoping from it? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Newsflash. Some corporate executives are shifty. What? Say it ain't so. Maybe even in Hollywood, as the Hollywood Reporter put out this story that I'm fascinated by. Amazon MGM Studios is being sued by a producer over an alleged pay-to-play scheme. Joe Eckhard accuses a studio executive for asking for kickbacks in exchange for awarding post-production contracts. Okay. Here's the basic nuts and bolts of this story. There is a producer who does post-production on reality-based shows like Sex Island and Suck My Toe City or whatever these reality shows are called. Actually, I've got a list of a couple of them here. It's not called Sex Island. Selling Tampa, Selling the OC, Love Island, a few of these things. So this is a guy who does a production company, and the way these studios often work, right? The studios produce these shows, but then they farm out a lot of the work. They'll farm out the editing, or they'll farm out whatever, and they get companies, these boutiques that come in and they will do that work for them. And the way that generally works is if you're a studio and it's like, okay, I need somebody to do post-production editing on this series we just wrapped filming. What you do is you put out a tender out to all the contractors and you say, here's the job we need done, submit a bid. Then all the contractors will submit a bid and a proposal, and then you pick the best proposal, aka the cheapest, and you grant the contract to that company, right? It's the same thing that happens in construction. It's the same thing, the way it happens in a lot of different industries, right? Company has a project, they need to farm out work, they'll ask for bids to do the work, and then they pick a contractor to do it. Well, what this situation is saying, the producer at one of these contractor studios that oversees post-production, a lot of stuff, says that one of the executives at MGM, or at Amazon MGM, basically said to them on the down low, hey, here's what the current cheapest bid is. You submit your bid, Price is Right style, $1 under that. because you're not supposed to know what your competition is bidding. That's a major, major no-no. And in exchange for me making sure you get the contract, you kick me 5% of the contract, or 3% of the contract, or 10% of the contract. It doesn't go into specifics. So basically, this executive at Amazon MGM is saying, I'll give you the contracts, you get a bunch of Amazon MGM money, but you give some of it to me under the table. And apparently, according to this lawsuit, the producer says that when he refused to engage in that scheme, him and his company got locked out of future bids. That is shady AF. Now, they're obviously denying any wrongdoing. They went to Amazon with this concern, and Amazon said, we found nothing wrong. And so the guy said, fine, then I'm taking you guys to court. And now he is suing them. Now, I have not seen all the evidence, so I don't know if he's right and Amazon is wrong, or if this guy, this producer at this executive at Amazon is completely innocent and this guy's just trying to get money out of them. I mean, I don't know what it is. But man, it sucks to see this kind of corruption potentially happening also within our entertainment industry. Let's not pretend like it's new. But anyway, Rob, you read this story. What are your thoughts about it right now?
It brings back a horrible memory of something that happened to me and my company directly. I was working for a studio, I won't say which one, on a very lucrative project. We were 14 months into a 2-year project, and suddenly we were working on a project where for the very first time I was working with the theatrical marketing division of a studio. We were not in theatrical marketing, but we were spearheading this project. Suddenly, they didn't even go by our contract that we had. We were just terminated from the project after hundreds of emails talking about how great the work we were doing. And I was completely dumbfounded. It devastated my business because we were owed a lot of money. All of it came to an end with no explanation. But the company was somebody you don't want to sue. So I'm sitting there with my wang in my hand, the wind is blowing, and I have people I'm supposed to employ. What I found out later was an executive who worked for theatrical marketing was doing the same thing with a vendor. He had been doing this ongoing, was overpaying the vendor with studio money and getting kickbacks.
Jeez.
Now, this was discovered. I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with the theatrical marketing division. But that vendor, the people I worked for wanted to lose. They didn't want any whiff of impropriety because they were not part of theatrical marketing. So we had crossover in that the material that we were creating was also being used by theatrical marketing. So that's why we were cut loose by them, because they didn't want any sense of impropriety to land on them. And we were standing, and I couldn't believe it. And you know what? I was never given an explanation at first why we were cut loose. But I'll tell you this, John, it cost me $500,000. Jeez. And I had to let go of a bunch of employees. And it was one of the most difficult professional experiences of my life. And it had nothing to do with us. And it was all because of somebody else who'd been, by the way, that executive had been kicking back to this one particular vendor for years. For years. So I hear this and it makes my effing blood boil.
Probably a little bit of PTSD in there.
100%,
right?
Because it was an incredibly difficult situation that ended my company at the time. So
this stuff, you know what? And I think it's far more common.
It happens all the time.
And I like this, something you mentioned. You kind of just quickly mentioned it, but I think this is what's key. I think the reason we don't hear about this a lot more is because you mentioned it's a company you don't want to sue. You sue, you suddenly become, what are they saying, John Wick, persona non grata?
Yeah.
Suddenly you are on a blacklist. And it's like, and no one's going to work with you. So you're kind of stuck. It's like, take this and say thank you. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, and not only that, this was an extremely high profile project. And I love the company that was producing it was not the company that I was directly working for. And I loved all those people. And if we had caused a stink, it would have caused a stink on this entire project. And the film company, in hindsight, if I had gone quietly and not made any public announcements, I should have absolutely threatened to sue. But I just was too afraid and stupid. But as long as you do it correctly, I would have said, this is an internal problem that you're making my problem. That's how I should have approached it.
And I think that's what a lot of these people, a lot of these studio people who are working against the interests of the studio too, by the way. The studios don't want to find out about
they're
this.
enriching themselves personally.
Yeah, they are counting on the fact that these smaller contractors, these boutique operations will be too scared to do anything about it. And now we've got a situation where somebody is. Again, we are not implying the guilt or innocence of anybody. We don't know the facts of the situation, but this is a type of situation that does go on in the industry.
It happened to me a second time, but I nipped it in the bud before it happened because I knew it was going on.
Well, I hope good things for these, and hopefully this will encourage and embolden other people who have been screwed over by people in the studio system to actually come forward in that, but we'll see what happens. Whatever you guys think about this whole messy situation, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. You know what we haven't done in a while? Played ourselves a little game of Overreaction.
Oh, yeah.
The way Overreaction works is really quite simple. We asked you guys to send us your hottest of hot takes. Then Rob and I will swiftly adjudicate whether your hot take is an overreaction or not an overreaction. Jonathan's got a bunch of them gathered up there. So, Jonathan, what do we have up first?
All right, Rob, let's start with you. Is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Ryan Brown. Clayface should have been the TV series, while Lantern should have been on the big screen.
I think that is kind of an overreaction because we haven't seen either one. So it's hard to say. And I'll tell you this, after seeing the trailer for Clayface at CinemaCon, I'm like, oh yeah, that should be on the big screen. You know, and we haven't even seen really much of Lanterns, but I think, you know, I think people are bringing their prejudicial opinions into these things before they've even seen them. And I don't think that's fair. You know, I didn't know anything about Clayface. I had no judgment. I did, other than the character as portrayed in the comics and especially the animated series. I saw that trailer. I'm like, oh man, I'm all in. You know, and I think anybody who's seen that trailer, it's like, okay. But look, I understand when you're thinking about Green Lantern and the idea of being out, the cosmic nature of it, but that's only one version of Green Lantern. I grew up with an much more earthbound version of Hal Jordan. So when I looked at that Lantern series, I'm like, oh man, it's like Neil Adams, you know, and Denny O'Neil back in the 70s doing, it's totally the comic from the 70s, although that was Green Arrow. Now we got two Green Lanterns instead of Green Arrow and Green Lantern. So for my money, I'm looking at a Lantern series that reminds me of the first time I encountered the character as a young whippersnapper. So I don't feel that way. I think it's an overreaction.
Yeah, I definitely am going to call this an overreaction because, like you suggested, we haven't seen 1 ounce of the stories yet. Like, maybe we'll have a different discussion after we've seen them both, and maybe we'll go, oh yeah, that Lanterns thing should have been a movie. But here's the thing, to James Gunn, he does not care about, his main kind of motivating philosophy isn't about who the character is. It's about what's the story call for. Everything about James Gunn is always about the script and the story first. And if to him, the Clayface story, they came to him with that. And of course, you know, the Mike Flanagan,
yeah,
who wrote it. Oh my God. Like, he brought it to him. It's a movie script. And he looked and said, yes, this has to get made. And then he looks at the Lanterns project. He's like, yes, the mystery, the murder mystery of it, all that kind of stuff, that lends itself more to a television series. And I just love the fact that James Gunn and Peter Safran take that approach, that the stories will dictate what they are, not what we think in principle Lantern should be. I kind of like that they do it that way.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, as a Gen Xer, to me, a cross-country odyssey of these two characters is ingrained in my first memories of Green Lantern. So, look, do I love Jeff Johns, you know, the Sinestro Corps War or the Blackest Night? Or, yeah, sure, I love all that stuff. I love the cosmic nature of all that. But I also love those early Green Lantern comics that I also picked up in the early 80s when they were reprinted. Those comics are just as valid of Green Lantern stories to me. So I look at the Lantern series and I'm excited about it, thinking like, wow, this reminds me of when I was reading Green Lantern as a kid.
All right, so we're both calling this one an overreaction.
All right.
What's next?
John, over to you. Is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from OG Balder. The highest grossing movie of 2026 will be a movie nobody expected, similar to Barbie or Top Gun Maverick.
Massive overreaction.
Yeah.
Guys, it's already written in the stars. It's the hiest grossing film of the year is going to be. It's going to be what?
It is written.
It is written. So let
Miyamoto
it be written,
says.
so let it be done.
Yeah, Miyamoto says it's.
Yeah. Miyamoto here. Avengers Doomsday is going to be the highest grossing film of the year. Nothing else is going to come. The only thing that's going to come remotely close is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other film coming out this year that, listen, as much as I hate to say it, Avengers Doomsday is a $2 billion potential film, not $1 billion potential. It's a $2 billion potential. I'm not saying it's going to get to $2 billion. I'm simply saying that's where its ceiling is. Nothing else has that ceiling other than maybe Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's not going to make as much as Avengers Doomsday either. There is no movie coming out that is, I mean, there are several could surprise us with $1 billion performance, but there's nothing coming out that has $2 billion potential. And so I'm going to say it's an overreaction to think that there's some coming out of left field movie like Barbie did that's going to compete. The thing is, an Avengers movie didn't come out the same year as Barbie. Otherwise, this wouldn't even be a conversation. So I'm going to call this one an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I definitely am going to call it an overreaction. I mean, I just think it's weird that, you know, I see all of these people that are I get the idea that the build up to Thanos was 10 years, and I get all of that. But that has nothing to do with the fact if you're presented with a movie that's a banger, and Avengers Doomsday is a banger on multiple levels. and I think people are going to love it. I think people are going to go to it and they're going to be like, "Oh my God." You know, and it I don't know why people are poo-pooing the idea that there's been 4 Avengers movies and all they've done is made the least amount of money they made was what Avengers Ultron made 1.4 billion. That was like that's the floor.
That's the floor. That's the bottom.
I don't know why people are betting against that. So,
I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. Would I love it if Toy Story 2, which by the way, once again, according to a lot of or Toy Story 5, thank you, that Toy Story 5, according to a lot of the industry things, is like, but was ranked by fans as the most anticipated movie of the summer.
And what if it's a Zootopia 2 situation?
Yeah, what if Toy Story 5? I'm not expecting Toy Story 5 to do this, but I mean, what if it made like 2.2 billion? Again, I am not expecting that. I would love it if that happened and actually gave an Avengers Doomsday a run for its money. But come on, let's be real here. Doomsday is, I'm not saying it's going to be the best movie of the year, but it's going to be the biggest movie of the year. All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, back to you. Is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Movies Are Awesome. Avengers Secret Wars will make more money worldwide than all 4 Beatle movies combined next year.
Oh, I don't think that's an overreaction. I think it probably will. I mean, that doesn't mean that, look, if you have if each Beatle movie makes $400 million or even $500 million worldwide, I mean, that's $2 billion, but I think that's a stretch. You know, who knows? I mean, having not seen, I have to bet on Avengers Secret Wars because of the 4 previously. I mean, if you want to look at the previous Avengers movies as the Fab 4 previous Avengers movies, you could. And I would say that there's no way that the 4 Beatles movies are going to equal Secret Wars. I don't think so. Unless they're of Michael caliber and people go. But I just, John, let me ask you something. And I know the answer. How do you feel about Beatles movies?
Don't give 2 squirts of urine about it. And I think there's more people than you think also don't give 2 squirts of urine about it. Listen, I don't know that all 4 Beatles movies combined are going to make 900 million.
Right.
I really don't. And I can feel the teeth of Scott Mantz digging into the back of my neck right now in rage and anger, but nobody gives a crap. All right.
Well, it's a law of diminishing returns. You have to watch 4 of these.
First of all, I just think this whole idea of them doing this is stupid. I really do. Now, there have been other things I've thought were stupid in advance, and then I end up loving them. And maybe that'll happen with the Beatles. I certainly hope it does. But yeah, right now, this is a ridiculous, dumb idea. They got some great people involved with it, but it's stupid. Listen, Elvis made $288 million worldwide, and that got nominated for Best Picture. That got Austin Butler nominated for Best Actor. It was Elvis, and it made $288 million. So I think that's the ceiling for any one of the individual Beatles projects. So yeah, I don't even think all 4 Beatles movies combined are going to make half of what Avengers Doomsday does.
There's been Beatles movies like Nowhere Boy or whatever. There's been other movies that have dealt with these kinds of subjects. Look, as much as I really love the movie Yesterday, but it's a trifle of a movie, even though I love it. And how much did that movie make? I mean, I just don't think that as much as the Beatles were, and I know they're not your favorite band, but as much as the Beatles were revolutionary,
They're not my favorite band, but I acknowledge they were absolutely
but
revolutionary.
if you think about it, the Beatles have, I often say that pop culture has a half-life of 20 years. Every 20 years, pop culture diminishes in the memories of the pop culture and the people that exist today. The Beatles just do not inhabit the same place. Even Elvis was lucky to make, I mean, people that didn't know Elvis could watch that trailer. You got Tom Hanks. It just looked cool. You know, it looked like the kind of movie you want to see. But people today just don't know the Beatles the way they did. I mean, I think back 40 years ago when I worked at Seattle Silver Platters and the Beatles were first released on CD. It was huge. It was a big deal. Right. But that was because they were released on CD, and you were basically 16 years away from from Let It Be getting released.
Which is crazy. Like, it seems like it's further.
But now it's 40 years after that.
Now it feels like that was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and so you've got a bunch of people, a whole generation of kids, 3 generations of kids that don't care.
Yeah. This was like 25 years too late.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what I'd rather see? I'd rather see a Run DMC Jam Master Jay movie. Where's my Run DMC Jam Master Jay movie? Anyway. All right.
Van Halen. The riff between David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar.
Drama?
Come on.
Pre-Sammy Hagar, you go back to David Lee Roth. And,
that's what I mean.
And then who was their third singer? It was the guy from the band their only hit was More Than
Was it Sebastian Shaw? I mean,
no. That was Extreme, right?
Yeah, he was the lead singer from Extreme. Sang it. No, he was Sebastian.
Bach. Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian Bach was the lead singer of. Oh, I can hear his voice. I can hear the song in my head.
No,
too.
totally. That's Skid Row.
Skid Row. Thank you very much. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to the next one. What's next?
All right. I think we're going back to you, John, here. So, John, is this an overreaction? We hear from Jack Turner, filmmaker. Lanterns will be the first DC project that will divide the audiences.
Listen, I don't think it will. But it absolutely has the potential to. So I'm going to say this isn't an overreaction. I mean, this is a really kind of a big swing for them to take these galactic characters, at least as they've been known for the last 20 years or so, and bring them into a true detective, gritty thriller mystery. That's a big swing. That's definitely not playing it safe. So it absolutely has the potential to really divide the audience. Now, not everybody loved Peacemaker, but that Peacemaker was not divisive. The vast, vast, vast majority of people loved it. If you didn't, that's okay, but it was not divisive. Superman was not divisive. The vast, vast, vast majority of the people liked it. But Lanterns, yeah, it does have that potential to be divisive. So while I don't necessarily think that's what'll happen, I don't think what you're saying is an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I don't think it's an overreaction either. But the funny thing that people forget is, like, in the Green Lantern mythology, Hal Jordan is the Green Lantern of this sector of space. He's supposed to be protecting Earth and the surrounding areas. So for him to light off and go up and deal with the Green Lantern Corps and go to OA and all that is not his mandate. His mandate is to protect Earth. And so when I was growing up reading Justice League comics in the 70s and the 80s, Green Lantern, of course, it went more cosmic later. And I love the idea of the space police force and whatever. That's all cool. But it's not like they're doing something unusual by doing Green Lantern stories set on Earth. Most of the stories I read about Green Lantern growing up were set on Earth. And sure, they had space too, but That's why he's here. His whole point. And if there's something on Earth that has, and by the way, I'm sure that it has cosmic shenanigans, whether it's Sinestro, somebody's doing something bad on Earth from extraterrestrial origins. And I'm there for it, dude. But I do think it can be divisive. So I don't find this to be an overreaction.
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob, back over to you. Is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from David Sickles. The Boys will be nominated for Best Drama Series at this year's Emmys for a second time.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I think this season of The Boys has been a pretty amazing journey.
We got to see the last episode still, but I think it's been remarkable. I've loved it.
And the themes that it's dealt with are not your typical superhero show theme. I mean, maybe they are, but they're doing it in such a really interesting way. I think it has a lot to say about the world we live in. It has a lot to say about the whole genre of superheroes. I think it does what great drama does on many levels. So no, it's not an overreaction.
All right. I'm going to call it an overreaction.
Oh, come on.
I don't like calling it an overreaction. Everybody knows I love this show. But man, this upcoming Emmys, it's going to be stacked.
Yeah, it is.
Because they are going to have to contend with The Pit, Pluribus, The Diplomat, Slow Horses, Paradise, Task, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Euphoria, Stranger Things, Industry, The Morning Show, Landman, Welcome to Derry. I mean, how many is
Beef
that?
season 2.
How many of that have I just listed? And there's only so many nomination spots. I would love it if The Boys got another Best Drama nomination, which it already has gotten once. But this next Emmys is, I just think, far too packed to realistically think there's a realistic chance that it could get one of those nominations. So I will hope desperately that I'm wrong. And I hate saying it, but
yeah.
I'm going to think this one's an overreaction.
I understand. But you know what it's not going to have to deal with?
What's that?
Starfleet Academy.
That's true. Luckily for them, Starfleet Academy won't be back to be nominated for it. That's the whole industry is wiping their head going, phew.
I know I am.
All right. What's next?
All right, our final possible overreaction, John. We hear from Vonnegut. Putting the Avengers Doomsday trailer in front of The Mandalorian and Grogu will push it to $150 to $200 million opening weekend.
Well, we talked about this the other day about the potential of it going in front of it and how it will help. And I do believe that if they did decide to announce, like 3 days before the movie comes out, that the Avengers Doomsday trailer will play exclusively in front of Mandalorian and Grogu, I do think it'll help its opening weekend. However, there is a limit to how much that will help. I believe that if it's going to get an $85 million opening weekend, I think it could be a $95 to $98 million opening weekend. That's an extra $10, $11, $12 million if they put it in front of it. But it will not double it. It's not going to double the audience. It's not going to go, there's not going to be 17 million people that go, oh my God, they're going to play the trailer in front of that?
Yeah.
Gotta go right now. I just don't see that. So could it help it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Will it double it or come anywhere near doubling it? Absolutely not. I'm going to call this an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I agree with my esteemed colleague. I will adjudicate the same way you do. I don't think it will do that. And I'll tell you something else. If they were going to do that, I would have thought that they would have announced it by now. You know, get those ticket prices goosed so people can see it. Because I do think I do honestly believe if they put the Avengers Doomsday trailer in front of, say, Toy Story 5, which I think is an even better bet, you know, that they're going to announce it beforehand and they're going to say it doesn't go online until after the opening weekend. If they're going to use it as a marketing tool, use it as a marketing tool. And no one said anything. I mean, maybe it'll gin up some. I mean, we are now 6 days away because it opens, or 7 days. It's a week from today. And no one said anything about this. Mm-hmm. And but even so, I think it's an overreaction to say it would gin up that much.
By the way, one of our live viewers, Adam Redmond, in the live chat is saying putting in front of Spider-Man would give it a bigger boost. I really disagree with that. The reason being is anybody going to Spider-Man or anybody going to see Avengers Doomsday, anybody who's looking forward to Avengers Doomsday is
Right.
probably already planning to go see Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it will be there.
Whereas that's not necessarily the case with Mandalorian and Grogu. I think there are a bunch of people excited about Doomsday who are not necessarily planning on going to see Mandalorian and Grogu. Therefore, putting a Doomsday trailer exclusively in front of it could give it a bump, but I don't see it helping Spider-Man as much as it would Mandalorian and Grogu. And all right, guys, that will wrap up this little round of overreaction. Thank you so much, guys, for sending in your hot takes, and keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel for the next time we put out a call for submissions, and maybe you'll see your hot take on the next round of overreaction. All right, guys, listen, we still got a couple of other things to talk about, including Marvel and Disney acknowledging that there was some visual effects and some audio problems with the Punisher One Last Kill that they're going to try to be fixing. And Marvel has released a brand new poster, but more importantly, this wonderful practical effects featurette online for Spider-Man Brand New Day. We're going to talk about those things and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a couple of seconds here to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Hims and BetterHelp. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. You know, one of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works. Because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there, and honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why weight loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever, and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk A.S. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, guys, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think it's a really important reminder that no matter what's going on in our lives, we don't have to go through it alone. And honestly, I think a lot of us carry around stress, anxiety, pressure, or uncertainty without ever really talking about it. Whether it's work, family, finances, or just trying to keep up with life, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You guys know that one of the things I've learned is that nobody has all the answers on their own. Sometimes just having someone to talk to, someone who can listen and help you sort through what's on your mind, can make a huge difference. And therapy can be a really valuable tool for that. BetterHelp has over 30,000 licensed therapists and has helped more than 6 million people worldwide. They'll match you with a therapist based on a short questionnaire, and if you ever feel like it's not the right fit, you can switch to another therapist at any time. You don't have to be on this journey alone. Find support and have someone with you in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's better, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Hims and BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. You know, Punisher One Last Kill came out, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, particularly because of the amazing action sequence. I thought the first half of it could have been better. Everything they did in the first half, I think they've done before, but done better. But whatever, overall, I enjoyed it. And I think most people did too. But you know, I did a little video last night called What People Think About Punisher One Last Kill. And one of the people who was talking online about it really resonated with me because it was the first person this girl said, was it just me or was the audio mix like really weird? And I was like, yes! Like, I watched it with Ann and our friend Ryan, And I didn't say it out loud, but while I was watching, I remember thinking, this is a weird audio mix. Sometimes you could barely hear the dialogue. Sometimes like the music was way out of level. Sometimes the sound effects were way out of level. Like, it just felt like kind of a wonky sound mix. Wasn't as bad as like Christopher Nolan's Tenet, but it was noticeable. And the other thing that a lot of people were mentioning was the scene. It's a great shot that gets wonky because of the visual effects. That shot where Frank goes off the building, falling backwards, shoots the guy, but then lands on this HVAC unit. And a lot of people saying that kind of looked like a video game shot. Like it looked that he looked terrible. I must admit, I didn't even notice it the first time I watched it. After I heard everybody saying, I went back to look at it. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Certainly did look bad. I didn't care watching it, but it was an issue. Well, apparently enough people are saying it. Marvel's taken notice, and apparently they're committing to fix it. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who writes, Marvel's Punisher One Last Kill mocked for unfinished VFX shot and audio issues. A stunt shot in the John Bernthal-led special is drawing some ridicule for looking like a PlayStation cutscene, while a sound mixing issue has left some viewers struggling. Disney Plus presentation The Punisher One Last Kill felt a bit like a punishment for some fans. The otherwise well-received special has been impacted by an audio mixing issue. A key stunt shot is being mocked for looking unfinished, though there's more to the story. First, fans said the Disney Plus presentation was hurt by audio mixing issues, particularly low dialogue volume, and I can attest that I agree with that. I could not hear a damn thing audio-wise in the Punisher special, wrote one. The surround sound speakers were configured wrong, wrote another. The center channels coming out of the rear and levels are wonky as well. And then, of course, there was the visual effects shot. Now, normally, in a situation like this, you just go, oh well, and you move on, right? Like, what do they say? Great art is never finished. It's only abandoned. Like, at some point, you just got to move on from it. And that's what you would probably do here. But the thing is, in this new world of streaming that we live in, it's still there. And so Disney has kind of, I believe, wisely said, okay, we are going to go back in and we're going to fix that, because it's not done. It's not now been put out in theaters and people paid to see it and now it's over. No, it's still there and it's living there, and they want more and more people to come and watch it. And so they've come out and said, we are aware of the issues and we are going to fix them. I don't think studios should always do that. I don't. But I think there are specific circumstances when it behooves you to do it. And I think this is one of those situations. So I'm glad that they're addressing it. Rob, when you watched Punisher One Last Kill, did you particularly notice any visual effects issues or audio issues? What did you think?
The visual effects, I always look at visual effects and think, okay, they didn't have enough money for that shot, or they didn't take enough time, or whatever. But sound issues, when I was watching Punisher, there is a huge problem in the streaming world that really nobody in Hollywood is talking about. And that is the people working in post-production have lost the institutional knowledge to understand how to do everything right. And what happens is there are people that work, there's a whole division of post-production called QC, quality control. And there are people that have to listen and watch every file that gets created, because we're finishing shows in files.
QC, my friend, QC.
And the thing is, they have to make changes because so many people that work in post-production don't do it correctly. And every time you have to send it back to QC, somebody has to watch it, and that's a charge. But that's because people aren't doing it right in the first place. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, has worked in QC for 30 years. And he has never been driven more crazy than he is today, because he kicks stuff back all the time. And of course, the people get mad. Like, why are you kicking this back? Well, because it's not done right. And what ends up happening is, I'm willing to bet that somebody made changes to especially the sound files. Because here's the thing that people don't know, John. If you're editing something, it's very easy. When you have a file and say it's a 5.1 thing, I don't know if this is if it's 5.1, here's how the file should work. You have the video channel. The first audio channel in 5.1 is your left speaker. The next line is right. Your third line down, your third audio track, is center speaker, mono. That's where the dialogue comes out of. The next level is your LFE channel, low frequency. Then it's left surround and right surround. That's how it's done. But what's happening is that people mix those channels. They're working fast. They forget to do everything. And when you're working, now you've got a whole big timeline with all different things. They haven't set their channels correctly. It's easy to do, and you've got to learn to make it second nature. But when you have assistant editors working on things and multiple people, and when you have to get it done quickly, it always falls through the cracks. And there was never a final Q. I guarantee you, there was never a final QC pass done on that thing that went to air. Now, how that happened? It happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
I remember we were producing a show, Jonathan, you'll probably remember this. We were producing a show for another network once, and QC became a major thing we always had to deal with. Like always. And it wasn't even a show that like we were shooting. We were just kind of overseeing the production of it. And it was a nightmare, but it's necessary. It's a necessary nightmare. You got to go through it, or else your finished product ends up like this.
Well, also, all different countries have different QC standards. And so Germany and Japan have the strictest QC standards. So here's the thing. If you don't do it correctly, and a lot of low-budget indie filmmakers don't do it properly because it's expensive, you have to go in, and that's why when people are cutting things, you have to put your movie up on scopes, and you have to make sure that all the colors are correct. You have to make sure the black levels are correct. They're going to kick it back if you don't, and then you're going to have to pay more money in post. So these things have to be done correctly, and whenever there's a mistake like this, it's because somebody tried to cut corners in QC. And then what happens? They pull it off the air. They have to go fix it. They write articles in Variety, and someone loses their
By the way,
job.
they're not pulling Punisher off the air.
But I mean, what they do is they have to swap out the files.
Yes.
You got to take that old file down and no one's going to notice that happened. But you still have to do it, and it's costing somebody a lot of money.
Well, and it's not just the movie industry. Look at the video game industry. How many times have games come out that have been super buggy, and they have to release like these day one patches, or like they're constantly having to update? Cyberpunk was a nightmare for them before they finally got that game like to properly execute the way it was supposed to run.
I mean, how much money,
all over the place.
How much did that cost the producers of Cyberpunk
I can't even imagine how much that ended up
costing. It shouldn't happen. But they're trying to meet impossible deadlines, and you have to say, look, we are not ready to go out with this. And then you're going to pay for it later.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? When you watch Punisher One Last Kill, did you guys notice any visual effects or audio issues? I talked to a couple of people who never even noticed anything. I myself didn't even really notice that one big visual effect shot until I watched it the second time, but I certainly did notice the audio. Whatever. Oh, what's that?
I was going to say, I'll bet that shot was an unfinished shot, because you get iterations of visual effect shots as you're making something.
Oh, yeah.
So that could have been a visual effect shot that they forgot to swap out.
Yep. I don't think that was intended to be the finished product.
No.
Anyway, guys, whatever you think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's getting closer and closer, man. It still feels like a movie that's like 8 months away, right?
I know, dude.
But it's like coming imminently. It's almost here. And more stuff are starting to come out with it now. Well, according to our good friends over here at joeblow.com, good Canadian website, by the way, Spider-Man has now released a new poster, which I think you probably got a better version of it over there, Jonathan, do you? There it is. By the way, I love this. There's something I really love about simple posters.
Yeah.
That tell you so much. I really like this poster a lot. But they've also, probably more notably to me, they released this thing, this Spider-Man Brand New Day practical production sizzle, that really, just talking to Tom Holland, the director, talking about actually physically being there and doing these effects. And I'll tell you what, especially the stuff they were showing of actually having Spider-Man swinging through the city, because even going back to Sam Raimi's stuff, you just assume that a lot of the Spidey swinging action is done in CG. Totally understandable, right? But watching what they went through from a physical perspective to actually have that, and I'm sure these shots are going to be touched up with CGI.
Yeah.
They're going to leave all the
100% they will.
cables.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna be more than just cable removing, but I mean, yeah, they'll definitely remove all the cables, then they'll probably do a little touch-ups with CGI. But it reminds me when I look at them doing stuff like this of what Tom Cruise said. I remember when the Mummy movie he did, which nobody likes to talk about that Mummy movie, but there was this insanely great scene in that Mummy movie, the one in the plane.
Yeah, it was a great scene.
When they literally took the airplane, like production wise, they took the airplane up to the edge of the atmosphere so they could simulate zero gravity to simulate the live action of a free falling plane.
Yeah, the
and
parabolas that they do, that's the vomit
Yep.
comet.
Exactly. And moving around. And I remember listening to Tom Cruise talk about that and also referencing a lot of his Mission Impossible practical stunts. He just says, you can do magic with CGI, but sometimes it just connects with the audience on a much higher level when their brains just know that's actually me. That's actually me rolling around in that. That's actually me falling off of this. That's actually me hanging off the side of that building. He goes, there's something that just connects with your brain a little bit more, that your brain just kind of knows it's something that's real, and it creates a little bit of a different experience. I'm paraphrasing him, but that's basically what Cruise was saying. And I'm watching all this practical work they're doing. Now, listen, I'm one of these people that I will happily debate any of these people that come along and says, practical effects are always better. No, they're not. They are really, really not. But like everything else in life, there is a place when it's absolutely better. There are times when it's absolutely better. And there's a place and a time when sometimes digital is better. But watching them do these practical effects and seeing the way he looks swinging between the buildings.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, I'm really excited to see how this plays out when I'm sitting in the theater watching this on screen. Anyway, Rob, you saw the poster and you saw this sizzle that they did. What things are standing out to you?
Well, I really did like that poster. I like I love, you know, the dichotomy of the hoodie with the Spider-Man costume is great. I mean that single image, I love it when a movie poster, or key art as it's called, mythologizes the entire film in one image. You know, like you look at the great Tom Jung Star Wars poster, you know, it's like that. That's exactly what it is. Same with the Empire Strikes Back, Gone with the Wind style poster. This symbolizes or mythologizes the movie. So I love it. I love that kind of thing. I just wish it was more of a painting, you know, like Bill
Right.
Sienkiewicz painted it or whatever. But the behind the scenes stuff is great. And, you know, Dustin Cretton? You know, how do you pronounce
Dustin Daniel Cretton.
Daniel Cretton. That, you know, doing Shang-Chi, like, I think you and I I love the fact that Shang-Chi is like a wuxia movie, but that scene in the bus.
Listen, I'll say this right now. I will argue anybody happily. It is I think the airport scene in Civil War is the overall best action sequence.
Yeah.
But as far as a fight goes, that is the singularly best fight in all of the MCU.
Well, because
I love that bus scene.
it's real.
Yeah.
You know, and he's bringing a reality to that, and that scene really, really works in the film. And I think that's kind of, he's a director. Look, it's the same reason that Christopher Nolan likes to do everything practically and not with a blue screen. Because even if you're using miniature effects like he did in Inception, but you know, when he's got a gimbal and he's got a hotel corridor on that gimbal and people are spinning around, the physics are there. And we as human beings know what's real. And to watch that, look, if you're going to keep, the Spider-Man films get really stylized with him swinging. But if you're low to the ground, you know, and your camera's low to the ground and you want to film on these, you've got these big expansive sets with extras and all things coming, to do that, even if only a section of what you're doing has those shots, what that does is it bridges your other shots. You might have the swinging all the way through the cityscapes and all that, but if you bracket it with real shots set that are practical, it just adds to the reality. And there is it helps the entire film. You know, there is a cumulative effect. So the more real shots that you can intercut in to effect shots, it just grounds the film. And with the Spider-Man movies, the swinging around the city is always, we're so used to seeing the the CG generated version of it. I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air to see it in this because we haven't really had that before.
Yeah. And how they're going to make this blend, I just can't wait. And you know, the thing about Destin too is I don't know if there's any director they have right now other than maybe the Russo brothers and maybe even on the same level as Ryan Coogler that Marvel trusts as much and values as much as Destin, because not only did he deliver Shang-Chi and Wonder Man, which was way better than it had any business being.
Right.
But don't forget, back when the next Avengers movie was going to be Kang Dynasty, they turned to Destin to be the director of that. And it was only after they realized that they had dropped the ball on how badly they botched Kang and he couldn't be a believable big villain anymore that they moved on from it. But they were like, but don't go anywhere, Destin. How would you like to do Spider-Man? And then they gave him Spider-Man. And I'll guarantee you, Destin is going to be a part of Marvel for a very, very long time. Unless Spider-Man Brand New Day sucks, which I am not anticipating that it will. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, I think the poster looks really good. I love the simplicity of it, but I was really impressed with that little practical effects sizzle reel. I'm really excited to see how that's going to look and feel compared to like most of the other Spider-Man movies, both the Sam Raimi ones, the John Watt ones about, you know, how it's always CGI with him doing the swing around the city. I'm sure there's going to be some CGI of him swinging around too, but to see this in there as well, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. And that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you guys, the thousands of you guys in the live chat who did join us live here today. It's always fun having the live chat open and reading through your conversations, stuff like that. Great to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, thanks to our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
I won't be here tomorrow because it's my birthday.
It is your birthday
I'll
tomorrow.
See you on
That's
Monday.
right.
And by the way, I just want to remind people, an animated Gundam movie, Gundam Hathaway, is opening in theaters tomorrow. So check it out.
It's good because it's going to be a while before we get something live action. Anyway, guys. If ever. That will do it for us, guys. My name is John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.